Hi, my name is Tim Burns. I run this channel which examines the arguments of Kent Hovind. I recently had the chance to email some questions to Kent, and he answered them, so in this series of videos I will be responding to his answers. In my 8th question, I asked about homologous structures. I said to Kent, "You explain homologous structures by saying that it could just be evidence that those animals have the same designer, who's using the same parts for different animals. So what's your explanation for why there are mammals who live underwater, when the designer could have just made them homologous to fish? Why did he need to convert mammalian characteristics to aquatic life, when he could have just reused the parts from fish instead?" Kent starts out by saying that whales and dolphins being mammals is just a man-made classification, but that's completely irrelevant to this question. The fact is, whale and dolphin body structures are much more homologous to mammals than fish, and homology is what we're talking about. So it really doesn't matter for the sake of this question if Jesus said Jonah was swallowed by a fish. Though it does illustrate how creationism is not about replacing science with better science, it's about replacing science with theology. To the main body of my question, Kent admitted he simply doesn't know. Again, this is another area where creationism clearly has less explanatory value than evolution does. Within the theory of evolution, we have very good evidence-based reasons to explain why whales or dolphins would be set up more like land mammals than fish. Within creation, all we have is, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool though. Then Kent goes on and takes issue with my use of the word convert. I think he's being a little nitpicky here. I wasn't saying that God evolved mammals into whales. I was going off of his own argument that the explanation for homologous structures is that the same designer just likes to reuse parts. And Hovind loves to use the straw man argument that since Ford and Honda and everyone else uses tires, that proves all cars evolved from a skateboard. That's not even close to what anybody's claiming, and I'm pretty sure he knows that. He's making what's known as an appeal to ridicule fallacy. What I think would be a much more apt analogy is if there were a boat made entirely out of modified car parts. If you saw something like that, would you think the person who designed that was all-powerful? Or would it be a lot more reasonable to suppose that they were making do with a very limited set of parts that they had on hand? Kent ends by saying, the reason God did some unique things is so people like me would have to scratch my head and say, maybe there's a designer. It doesn't seem like it worked out so well, since I find this to be much more compelling evidence of evolution working with what's available than of an all-powerful designer using car parts to build a boat. The point about the platypus and seahorse is just an argument from incredulity. He basically seems to be saying, if you don't understand how every little thing evolved, then it must have been God. I'm not even going to waste my time explaining everything that's wrong with this basic God of the gaps argument, but I will put one link in the description showing how through genome sequencing, biologists actually do have a pretty good idea of where platypuses fall in the evolutionary lineage. Which makes that yet another question creationists claim could only be answered by God that has been answered by empirical, testable data instead.